Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my review of Balatro. So we did an overview of this the other day, which is where I just look at the first 2 hours and I was very impressed. I could feel the itch, the addiction potentially. I had to put it down to cover this. I've done more hours and it's only gotten better, to be honest. I'm very, very impressed with this game. For those not across it, the format that I do reviews under and the ranking system, scoring system that you'll see in the thumbnail is unconventional. If you find that interesting, I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. I don't want to clog the front up. But yeah, suffice to say, this is digital crack. It's not like gambling or anything like that, and as I did cover, not to retread too much, but I did just do the overview the other day, even though it runs the sort of aesthetic of, you know, your sort of parlor games, 52 card deck sort of thing. It doesn't have any sort of gambling components. I don't know if people are worried about it or anything like that, but personally, I bounce off things like solitaire. Even poker and blackjack has very limited interest for me. And as much as at a blush, looking at, you know, screenshots and all that of this game aesthetically looks sound, like its whole art direction is simple but really clean. I'll confess, I wasn't super hyped when I saw it was playing cards. So maybe if you sit in that same area, rethink it as I did, because this is one of the most addicting games I played all year. And I'm gonna play more. I'm not going to stop. This sits firmly in that, you know, roguelike game where you can do a run that will go for hours and you get really sweaty, but you could also be just clicking away listening to a Spotify or something like that in the background. So the fact that it has that dynamism that you can cover both ends of that is pretty unique. Interestingly enough though, the playing card setup being that to score points you have to play poker hands, right? So you have to play flush, straight, full house, two pair, all that sort of stuff. That actually creates a lot of variability and viability for build diversity. At first, you know, you might think, oh, is this just sort of solitaire plus? You might not realize it until you do start going a bit deeper, but this game has more depth than most card games, card roguelikes that you see. The thing with a lot of, you know, Slay the Spire type games and all that, and I'm not necessarily trying to go after the big dog, but they're all deeply entrenched in, you have an RPG character that will sit within an archetype. And while that's thematically cool, you know, I can be a tank or I can be a bloody mage or a, you know, like a loser archer or something. As much as that makes sense and it gets you interested and there's a sort of immersion thematic component to it, this game kind of highlights that it's a constraint. There's only so many builds you can do with a warrior class. You know, tanky shield type dude, maybe a bit of damage output, and that's about it. I know I'm very much editorializing and simplifying it all, but a lot of the build and depth and content and replayability of the other games in this genre will come from picking your starting character, picking your starting artifacts, I suppose. In fact, as I say it out loud, I come to realize that this is a roguelike, very much so. What sort of meta progression do you have? I guess you can unlock more Joker cards, but at the same time, I'd have to double check it. The game's giving me cards that it says undiscovered, unlocked, but I can still buy them and unlock them. Maybe I have to buy them into the store before they actually rotate in. That makes a bit of sense. But anyway, the meta progression, and this is a whole other topic, as someone that loves roguelikes before they kind of got cool. You know, I listened to indie music before it was cool, that wanker. I'm being that guy. I loved roguelikes, which are ones that have no meta progression, and the modern wave that you're probably more used to as a fellow normie are ones where, like, you can only get so much out of a run when you boot the game up, and you need to unlock more and more crap to be able to unlock more and more crap. That's probably not the best wording, but games often, they walk the knife's edge of how much of the game do we pull out and put into meta progression without hobbling the core gameplay loop. Whereas a true, pure, traditional roguelike is 100% run based. You don't unlock anything. You don't get your dopamine, modern, bloody, low attention span feedback loop. It's about the game runs on its own and you want to play it 100 different times in a self-contained manner. I hope this makes sense. This is like 99% roguelike, apart from the aforementioned unlocking a couple of extra cards for jokers. And even in the time that I've played it, I know I've got the achievement for unlocking all of them. So it didn't take me very long. So yeah, that's a really big part of it to pull the thread that I pulled on earlier. A lot of games outsource it into the character type. You know, they kind of get a bit of RPG adjacent. What artifacts that you started with, what meta progression you've got unlocked, and this dictates the variability of a run. And you got to ask yourself, if you took the special features of the character class you chose, if you didn't let them choose different relics or artifacts or whatever, does the game actually last for 50 hours? It's a good question, and I think a lot of games fall over because they rely heavily on meta progression. This not so much, right? Because a huge part of the diversity comes that in between rounds that you sort of play a hand and you try and meet a score against a pretty basic scoreboard. All the little things that you buy in the shop and the jokers that you pick up, all the little augments, they're all within that run, and the compounding combo-like interplay between them, specifically the Joker system, which is the Jokers are the cards that really change the game, and that they can be wildly different. From economic gainers, you know, if you play these sort of cards, you'll get gold, which can be spent in the shop, to actual, you know, combo boosters to point boosters, because you score points and you also have multipliers. So maybe it gives plus 100 points per card or something like that. Geez, that'd be a pretty powerful Joker. But then you might have one that's like, we'll add the multiplier to plus 7 or what have you. This is the most basic stuff, but a lot of them lean into, you know, maybe you want to play straights, flushes. Maybe if you discard X face cards, you get some sort of bonus. And these go from common all the way up to rare. And what I'm sort of getting at is you only have a slot for 5, and how the 5 interact with each other creates incredibly cool variability and potentially the runaway situation, which to me is the dragon that you chase. The Risk of Rain 2, I use that as the high watermark, that inside of one run you can go from having your crappy starting pea shooter to the point where your computer's nearly bricked out. You are just such an insane monster. And it's not always, but, you know, that's sort of the dream. The power creep is hugely rewarding, and that happens in this game as well. You can, if you play your cards right. Oh, there's a pun. There's a thumbnail name. You know, line it all up in such a way that you do obnoxious combos, and the game knows how to reward you for it as the scores are ticking up and it's building up. And if your combo is getting way unreasonable, it starts like burning. Like you have a little animation and you have like a rumbling flame sounds. It's like, yeah, the game knows. The game knows I broke it, and instead of, I suppose that. Actually, you know what? It is a big thing. It might not seem like a big thing, but instead of having some sort of gameplay mechanic built in to throttle you, to stop the player becoming a runaway bloody monster, the game actually, like I said, it has animations and sound effects to lean into it. It's good. The devs know exactly what they did here and should be commended. But anyway, look, I think I've covered it off basically. Simple to pick up. You know, the adage, simple to learn, difficult to master, addicting as all hell, and without relying too heavily on meta progression. As it stands in my ranking system, such as it is, I'll explain more in a minute, but I'm going to place this at 9.9. That sounds high, but the system's still in works. Anyway, so that's my review. Regarding my system, there are two things to explain here at the end if you've made it this far with me. I have a low bar objective standard in that for every $5 that a game asks of me, I will play it for an hour, or rather I ask for an hour of solid gameplay loop. It's not the highest bar, but it is a great way for me to, again, field an objective standard. Play enough that you get enough value out of the game as priced by the publisher, and then we can sort of rank them in a hierarchy. So in this particular case, the game's going for $21.95, which would be, what, 4 hours? I've played more than that, to be perfectly honest, much more, and it holds up, obviously. As far as the ranking system, the score system, it's unconventional. A lot of people are confused what I'm doing. Essentially, think of it as just ranking things from 1 to 100. I happen to be doing it on a decimal point, so it's not going to literally be 100. It'll be things like 9.9, 9.8, that sort of stuff. Now, at the moment, I'm just seeding from the top, 10 down. The idea is that once I've gotten through 100 games, they will all sit at a different score and they will all be a relative ranking. It's an objective way for me to mark my subjective opinion, which people find helpful. You're not going to agree on everything totally, and sure, there might be good games that get 5 out of 10, but that's only because I reckon there were 50 games better than them. The point is, it's a tool, it's an unconventional one, it's going to upset all these publishers that I talk to, but I don't care because it will be useful for a consumer, at least more so than me just giving 20 different games 7 out of 10. Anyway, that's my system and that's my review for Balatro. What a game. I can't wait to play more. You should check it out yourself. Team, might just leave it there for the time being and I'll catch you guys on the next one.